All the stories we post on our channel come from subscribers and are based on real events we've either experienced or witnessed. We create and share news stories every day for your entertainment, and we truly hope you enjoy them. Thank you for being here. If you had asked me a year ago how my marriage was going, I probably would have shrugged and said, "We're fine." Nothing dramatic. No shouting matches. No slammed doors. Just quiet. Too quiet. My name is Mark. I'm 39 and work as a paramedic in Mississauga. My job means long shifts, 12 to 14 hours sometimes. I've seen more emergencies than I can count. But nothing messes with your head like coming home to someone who's physically present but emotionally absent. That emptiness hits harder than any trauma call I've ever taken. My wife, Eliza, is a freelance graphic designer. She works from home and has built a solid clientele, especially since the pandemic pushed so many businesses online. I used to be proud of her independence. We'd always joked that she was the artsy one and I was the steady rock. But slowly that dynamic shifted. She started taking me for granted while I kept pouring everything I had, emotionally, financially, into our life together. It started small. She said she was tired. Understandable. We all get tired. Then came the constant headaches. Every night, like clockwork, I'd come home reeking of disinfectant and stale coffee, toss my bag down, and there she'd be, curled up on the couch in sweats, blanket over her lap, phone in hand. Most nights, she wouldn't even look up. I'd kiss her forehead and ask, "How's your day?" Her response was always the same. "I'm fine. Migraine's back." And that was it. At first, I was concerned. I offered to book her a doctor's appointment, told her to take breaks from her screen, but she always brushed it off. Hormones, deadlines, stress. I didn't want to push. But over time, the pattern became impossible to ignore. It wasn't just the physical intimacy that vanished. It was everything. The little touches, the jokes, the laughter during dinner. Our conversations became transactional. Eggs, bills, errands. The connection was gone. When her birthday rolled around, she asked to go to Niagara-on-the-Lake with her friends. Spa, wine tasting. "It's just the girls," she said. "I need to decompress." I nodded and sent her the $600 she asked for. No questions asked. Then Christmas came. She wanted the newest iPhone Pro Max. For her work, she insisted. I bought it. AppleCare, leather case, all of it. You know what I got? A pair of socks and a car that read, "Love you, babe. Thanks for everything." No dinner, no hug, no spark, just those words. And honestly, that card broke me more than if she'd forgotten the whole holiday. "Thanks for everything." That's what you say to a delivery guy, not your husband. I didn't need gifts. I needed her to see me, to reach for my hand at night, to ask how I was doing after losing a teenage patient, not to just assume I was fine. She wasn't there for any of it, not emotionally, not mentally, and certainly not physically. When I tried to talk about it, she deflected. "You're always in a mood when you get home. Or it's just a phase." My favorite? Not everything's about sex, Mark. But it wasn't about sex. It was about feeling like a ghost in my own house. A walking wallet. I was giving everything and getting nothing but silence. And what made it worse? How subtle it all was. No obvious affair. No big blowouts. Just a slow, steady retreat. Quiet neglect. That's the kind of hurt that's hardest to explain, because it isn't loud, but it is devastating. One night, after a brutal double shift, I came home. I hadn't eaten. Walked into the house and smelled takeout. Eliza was surrounded by Thai containers, watching a true crime doc with her headphones in. She didn't even pause it. Didn't look up. I stood there for a full minute, then walked to the kitchen, grabbed a slice of stale bread, and went to bed. That was the night something inside me snapped. Not from anger or sadness, just numbness. After that, I started noticing everything. How she only touched me when she needed something. How she smiled more during Zoom calls with her friends than she ever did with me. How she started locking her phone privacy. She said, "Right, I wasn't stalking her. I just started observing." 14 nights in a row of not tonight. 7 missed dinners. 3 times in 1 week, she asked for money. Adobe plugins, she claimed. What hit the hardest wasn't the money. It was a realization that she never asked how I was doing. Not once. And I'm not the type to vent emotions easily, but even I needed someone to ask. So I started shutting down. I stopped initiating anything, affection, conversation, gestures. I didn't bring her coffee anymore. Didn't send sweet texts. I turned my back in bed. And you know what? She didn't notice. Or maybe she just didn't care. But she still asked for money. Still expected things. Like I was her walking, talking bank app. No, please. No, thank you. Just expectation. That's when I knew. She'd stopped loving me a while ago. Or maybe she just stopped choosing me. And love? Real love? It's not passive. It's a choice, something you show, not just feel. One snowy morning, I stood by the window with cold coffee and thought, if this is what marriage is, I want no part of it. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just started planning. Emotionally, financially, mentally. I opened a separate savings account. Stopped putting money into our joint card. Started going to the gym again. Called a friend and said, I might need a place to stay someday. Because when the person next to you acts like you're a burden, the silence becomes deafening. And when all they give are cold shoulders and migraines, eventually you stop giving back. After that night, I changed. Quietly. No fights. No speeches. Just small moves. I opened an account at a credit union farther from our neighborhood, so she wouldn't see the logo if she ever borrowed my laptop. I reduced the amount I auto-deposited into our joint account. Just $400 less. Nothing she'd notice. I stopped bringing her Starbucks. Stopped ordering takeout when she was stressed. No more bottles of wine on Fridays. The little things she once said meant the world. She didn't even ask why they stopped. She just moved on. That silence told me everything. At home, I stayed civil. I didn't accuse or complain. I just quietly pulled away. And for the first time in months, I could breathe. Every time I hesitated before giving in to her requests, I felt a piece of myself return. I was remembering who I was before I became her emotional ATM. Then, one day, she asked for $800, a mentorship course hosted by some Instagram influencer. I looked at her and calmly said, I'll need to think about it. Just 6 words. But it was like I'd committed a crime. She snapped, think about it? Since when do you need to think about helping me grow? And that was the moment I realized she never expected a partner. She expected a provider. And I was done being used. Professionally, I shrugged. It's not about helping you. It's about how you only talk to me when you need money. She scoffed. Wow, that's low. And just like that, the mask cracked. Not completely, but I saw it. The entitlement, the assumption that I'd keep giving while she gave nothing. Not love, not intimacy, not support. It was around this time that I bumped into Lydia again, a nurse I used to work with before she transferred hospitals. We ran into each other at a Tim Hortons near the rec center. She was grabbing a double-double before her shift, and I was off duty. We hugged, caught up, and something in her voice and her eyes reminded me what real warmth felt like. She actually asked how I was. And when I said tired, she didn't just nod and move on. She sat with it. We didn't flirt. Nothing crossed the line. But after that short conversation, I sat in my car for 20 minutes and realized I couldn't remember the last time Eliza looked at me the way Lydia did. Like I was human. That night, Eliza was already in bed when I got home. Headache again, of course. I didn't even bother saying anything. I made myself some scrambled eggs, sat at the kitchen island, and scrolled through job postings, just in case I ever needed to pick up extra hours or move cities. It was a weird comfort, having options. And then something strange happened. Eliza started noticing my silence. Not right away, but about 2 weeks later. She made a comment during dinner, one of the few we shared. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "Everything okay at work?" I looked at her. It felt like I was staring across a canyon. "Work's fine. I've just been thinking." "About what?" "About how I used to put in all the effort, emotionally, financially, romantically, and now I'm tired. She didn't say anything, just stirred her pasta. That moment could have been a turning point. Maybe for a healthy couple, it would have been. But with us, she didn't ask a follow-up. She didn't say, I've noticed that, too, when I'm sorry. She just said, we're all tired. I almost laughed. No, Eliza, I'm not tired like you're tired. I'm tired of being invisible. From that day on, I stopped hiding the shift. I didn't fake affection. I didn't cover for her emotional absence. I slept on the edge of the bed. When she texted me during my shift asking for random transfers, I replied hours later saying, can't do it right now. The more I set boundaries, the more she became irritated. One Saturday, she brought up the fact that I hadn't paid the Netflix bill and she couldn't watch her show. I had other priorities this week. I said calmly. She snapped, you're acting like I'm some gold digger. I'm your wife, Mark. Then act like it, I said, because right now, you treat me like an expense. Her jaw dropped. She tried to argue, but I walked into the garage and sat in silence for 20 minutes, just breathing. I'd never been that direct before. It scared me, but it also felt right. Around this time, I started going to therapy, not couples counseling, just me. I found a male therapist through a support network for first responders in Ottawa. His name was Jacob. Calm, early 50s, no BS. He asked me, why haven't you left yet? And for the first time, I said it out loud, because I wanted to believe she'd come back, that we'd come back. But I don't think that's going to happen. He nodded. So now you're protecting yourself. That hit me like a truck. I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting me. That shift in thinking changed everything. I started focusing on me again. I cooked my own meals, watched movies I liked, reconnected with a few old friends over beer downtown. Not because I was trying to make her jealous. I wasn't playing games. I was just reclaiming space that used to be mine. And something else happened. The more I pulled back, the more she tried, but not in the way you'd hope. She tried to control the narrative. You're being cold. You've changed. You're making me feel unwanted. And I wanted to scream, welcome to my world. But I didn't. I just said, I think we're in different places now, Eliza, and I'm not interested in chasing what we used to be. That silence afterward, it wasn't empty. It was freeing. By the end of this, we weren't separated officially. Not yet, but emotionally, we'd already parted ways. The woman who once held my hand and told me I was her world now sat across from me like a stranger who expected me to fund her lifestyle while offering nothing in return. And I, once the man who bent over backwards to make her feel special, had finally realized I deserved more than rationed affection and conditional love. This was no longer about revenge. It was about peace. A few months after I started pulling away, things between me and Eliza just floated. That's the best word I can use. We weren't fighting. We weren't connecting. It was like living with a roommate I used to love. Except now, I didn't even know what she liked for breakfast. And to be honest, I didn't care anymore. It was spring when things finally reached their quiet breaking point. I remember it well because the snow had finally melted in Ottawa, and I took a solo weekend trip to Halifax. I told Eliza it was a wellness retreat for first responders. Half true, I did sign up for a workshop, but the real reason? I wanted distance. I needed air that wasn't soaked in our tension. And Halifax, with its coastal wind and laid-back pace, felt like a reset button. Funny thing is, in that salt air and slower rhythm, I remembered who I used to be. I walked along the harbor front in silence. No text from her asking where I was. No guilt trips. Just me, my thoughts, and the realization that I didn't miss her anymore. That scared me more than anything, because for so long, I thought I stayed because of love. But what I was actually clinging to was habit, a routine of being the giver, the fixer, the guy who absorbs the hits and still shows up. Halifax made me see how long I'd been surviving, not living. When I got back home, Eliza was in the kitchen on her laptop. She barely looked up. You're back. Yep. She didn't ask how it went. Didn't ask what I saw, what I felt, what I learned. just went back to her screen. That night, while brushing my teeth, I looked in the mirror and said to myself quietly, "You're going to leave." Not in a rage, not in revenge, just truth. I was done performing a marriage by myself. The shift became more noticeable after that. I started packing small things into boxes and storing them in the garage. Old photos, winter gear, sentimental keepsakes. She didn't ask. Maybe she assumed I was organizing. Or maybe, deep down, she knew. One day, she asked if I could send her $300 for a branding package she wanted to buy from some online business coach. That familiar tone was back, cheerful, sugar-sweet, like she used to be when we were dating. I didn't say no. I just said, "Not anymore, Eliza." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm not your sponsor. I'm your husband. Or at least I used to be. But this isn't a partnership anymore. It's a one-way street." She paused, blinked a few times. I could see it in her face, the panic setting in. I'd never spoken like that. Not with edge. Not with truth. "So what? You're cutting me off." "No," I said calmly. "I'm setting boundaries. You cut us off a long time ago. I'm just catching up." That night, she tried. She really tried. Made dinner. Pasta primavera, my favorite. Poured wine, put on music. She even changed out of her usual worn-out hoodie and wore something from our early days. It felt hollow, like a performance. She smiled too much, laughed at things that weren't funny, reached for my hand like she remembered that was something wives were supposed to do. I didn't fake it. I didn't stop her. But inside, I had already left. She smiled politely, ate in silence, helped with the dishes, and went to bed without touching me. A few days later, she sat me down. "I feel like we're falling apart," she said. I nodded. "We already have." "Can we fix it?" she asked. And here's the thing. I didn't even want to fix it anymore. "There's nothing to fix," I told her. "We're not broken. We're over." She started crying. Really crying. The kind of tears I hadn't seen from her in years. "I thought we were just going through a phase," she sobbed. "I didn't think you'd give up." I stayed silent. "You always forgive," she whispered. And that's when I said the one sentence that closed the book. That's the problem. The next week, I found a condo in Halifax. A small one-bedroom with ocean views and peace in the walls. I transferred my job to a Nova Scotia paramedic team. Not easy, but doable. I needed out. Not just from a marriage, but from the city, the street, the routines that had trapped me. When I told Eliza I was leaving, she didn't yell. She didn't beg. She just stood there, small, stunned, and slowly crumbling. She said, "So you're really choosing to walk away?" I looked her in the eyes and replied, "You walked away a long time ago. I'm just not following anymore." She asked for one final dinner before I left. I agreed because I'm not cruel. We sat across from each other in the same restaurant where we'd had our engagement dinner 12 years ago. Same table, even. She wore makeup, spoke softly, laughed nervously, tried to rewind time with candles and conversation. But the more she tried, the more I saw how far we drifted, like trying to pull together two continents. "Maybe we could reconnect slowly," she said. "You could stay in Ottawa for a few more months. We could go to therapy." I didn't respond to the bait. I just smiled and said, "I'm not angry, Eliza. I just want peace." And peace doesn't live here anymore. She cried again. And this time, I didn't comfort her. It's been 6 months now. I live in Halifax. I go for walks by the water on my days off. I drink coffee slowly in the mornings. My phone doesn't buzz with sudden requests or guilt trips. She still texts sometimes. Not often, just enough. "Hey, how are you? I heard about that snowstorm in Halifax. You okay? Remember our trip to Cape Breton? That was a good time." I never ignore her. I just don't engage. I respond with kindness, not attachment. "Doing well. Hope you are too." No warmth. No hate. Just closure. One night around 11 p.m., she sent a long message, clearly after a few glasses of wine. She told me she missed me, that she realized too late how much she took for granted, that she kept expecting me to stay, to be the solid one, because I always had been. I didn't reply right away. I thought about it, took a walk, let the ocean remind me what stillness feels like. Then I responded, I hope you take care of yourself, but I'm not coming back. Be well. That was it. She hasn't messaged since. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Sometimes closure doesn't come from one final fight or one final kiss. It comes from finally choosing yourself. Quietly, steadily, without looking back. Eliza thought my silence was weakness, but it was my strength. She rationed affection. I rationed access. She gave me headaches every night. Now I give her distance every day. And in that space, I found everything I lost, peace, dignity, and the power of walking away. Not because of hate, but because I finally remembered what it means to be loved. And I won't settle for anything less.